What we all need is a great keto flour. Now sure, there's some keto flours out there. Some of them are made with Care Bear fur, some of them have powdered unicorn horns, eye of newt, bat wing, a lock of your baby's first hair. I mean, there's all kind of recipes out there. There's also a whole lot of expense you have to go to get some of these. So my mission was to make a keto flour that you could walk into your local Walmart, grab all the ingredients, come home and make it, and substitute it for any recipe with flour. So today on Southern Keto, that's what I'm gonna show you, some keto flour. Stick around. This keto flour can be made nut-free. Just substitute the almond flour that I use in there for some unsalted sunflower seeds, crush them up in your spice grinder until they're a powder, and you can totally use that instead. You could also use pork rinds if you wanted to. And if you watch my pork rind video, you'll see the kind that I recommend to where your chocolate chip cookies won't taste like pork. So I'm gonna start with my favorite yellow mixing bowl. Now, if you don't have a yellow mixing bowl, your flour's not gonna come out as good and nothing's gonna taste as good, so I don't know what to tell you. If you want the story about the yellow mixing bowl, I'll link it down there below in case you're new here, but it tends to make an appearance in just about every video. So the first thing I'm gonna add in is 2.5 cups of this almond flour. And like I said, you could use sunflower seeds, grind them up. This is a real fine texture here. So this is the finely ground almond flour. If you get the kind at Sam's Club, or this is from Aldi, it's finely ground. Just make sure if you substitute it, that you finely grind whatever you're gonna substitute it for. So in we go, 1 cup, 2 cups, and I figured I was gonna have to open another bag because that's not quite a 1/2 cup there. So this flour pretty much substitutes 1 for 1 for any recipe with flour in it. Now there are a couple of things that you may need to look at depending on what you're making. And if it's any of my recipes, I'll always tell you if you need to add a little bit less liquid or whatever, but just stick around till the end and I'll give you a couple tips in case something that you make doesn't come out right, or if you want to try to head that off beforehand, I'll let you know. And I'm measuring in a cup. I'm not weighing anything out, and it seems to come out just fine. So anyway, 2.5 cups almond flour. And the reason I love almond flour so much, it has a neutral taste, so it's really good in either savory or sweet dishes. The same with the sunflower seeds. And I will tell you right off the bat, if you're using sunflower seeds, you need to add some sort of an acid in there. Of course, I like fresh lemon juice because of the enzymes in there, but you're gonna need to add that if you substitute the sunflower seeds for this, or else your stuff's gonna turn green. There's a chemical compound in sunflower seeds called tergrenoside, and I'm just kidding. I'll put the name for it in this video somewhere. But anyway, if you don't use it, it's gonna turn green. Now I'm gonna add in 1/2 cup of coconut flour. And the reason you want to add the coconut flour is this kind of provides the structure. It soaks up some of the liquid just like your traditional flour would. And you need that for the structure of it and the chemistry of it all. See, I'm trying to go all out on this video. I done dirtied up 2 measuring cups already. Normally, I'll just kind of eyeball it and do the best I can, but hey, I'm gonna wash one more dish for you here today. So make sure you give me a like down there. I'm trying to make these videos better for you. Now, the next thing we're gonna need is some flax seeds. We'll need 1/4 cup of them. And normally I like to get my spice grinder here, and I'll leave a link to that down below. And I like to buy the whole flax seeds and just grind them in here into a powder because they just tend to last longer. But when I went to the store this time, they didn't have whole flax seeds. So I got the kind already milled. You're more than welcome to do that. I would just, after you open them, store them in the fridge so they'll keep longer. And I'm telling you what's the truth. I got a 1/3 measuring cup out for this thing. This is almost like a real cooking show or something. Now I find these at Aldi. It's the milled flax seed. And normally, like I said, they have the whole flax seeds. They just didn't have it this time. So I just decided to use this instead. I'll be making enough flour to use this up pretty quick anyway. What the flax seed's gonna do is kind of bind it together a little bit, and it gives it a little bit of a nutty taste like the flour has. So we'll just add that in right there. We're gonna whisk it all together. I'm gonna go ahead and whisk this up a little bit right now, just to kind of combine it a little bit. You can do it all at the end if you want to, but I'm just doing it kind of by layers. So we'll get that in there. And then the next ingredient I'm gonna use is this psyllium husk powder. Now you can find this in Walmart too. I actually ordered this off Amazon, and I will put links down below to where you can find all these. But I really like these. It's organic and it's the powdered version. So make sure if you're using whole psyllium husks, you grind them up into a powder using the spice grinder like that or something else. And we're gonna use this because it adds kind of like a more of a like a bready consistency to it. If you've made my keto bread, you know I use a lot of this in there, and that's why that bread acts like that bread acts. But with this, I'm going in with 2 tablespoons. And I got my whole measuring cup and measuring spoon collection out here now. Look at this. The next thing I'm gonna add in is some xanthan gum, and I use this Bob's Red Mill. You can find this everywhere, or you can order it on Amazon too. I'm gonna use a tablespoon of that, and the reason you wanna use the xanthan gum is this kind of takes the place of the gluten in there. It's an elastic kind of thing, and if you can't have xanthan gum for some reason, there's some other gums you could use, but nothing's gonna work as good as this. You know, I use this in my ice cream recipe too, and a lot of people have said, well, I tried to leave it out and it didn't work right. Well, no, I put it in there for a reason. And the reason for putting it in this is because it's gonna give it more of a gluten feel as well as the gelatin I'm about to put in. So you may recognize this combo from the ice cream recipe because I use the xanthan gum and I use gelatin to make that ice cream where it stays nice and smooth and creamy in the freezer even after staying in there for a week or so. I'm gonna use 2 teaspoons of this, and this is just gonna be a binder, and it's gonna make it nice and tender at the end. It works really good with that xanthan gum. I feel like the 2 of these are a killer combination, and that's why I use them together in a lot of things. And now all you gotta do is just whisk this together. Hey, and if you like keto, low carb, or gluten-free recipes, make sure you subscribe down there and you won't miss another video. While I'm whisking this together, I'll go ahead and give you all those tips I was talking about earlier. And then I'm gonna show you the best container that I've found to store this in to keep it nice and fresh. So a lot of these, including my next recipe that I'm gonna come out with, which is some keto Toll House cookies. Now I've used the original Toll House cookie recipe and made it exactly like that so you can see exactly how it's gonna turn out. But sometimes, because this does tend to absorb a little bit of liquid, you might wanna start out with about 90% of the liquid that the recipe calls for, and just make sure that it's not gonna be too much liquid in there for you. And the other thing, if you're making any kind of dough, you probably wanna let it rest maybe 5-10 minutes before you bake it. That gives all the flour time to absorb all the liquid, and then that's gonna make the texture just a little better for you. So you'll see me do that in a lot of these. And when I make a recipe with this, I'll try to always go in and tell you if any adjustments need to be made. And if you'll always go to the description, that's where my recipes are, and you'll be able to find everything. I'm gonna switch over to my flat whisk here. I love these flat whisks like that. You can really get all the way down into the bottom and make sure this is all well combined. And then another tip that I'll give you, and this may not be the case for all of them, and you'll see in this Toll House video, because I'm just gonna show you just straight like it is with this flour. But sometimes you're gonna want to increase the amount of baking powder or baking soda, whichever one you're using, by about 1/4. So you're gonna add about 25% more than what the recipe calls for. And the soda gives it a real salty kind of taste. So if you ever have any questions, you can go into this video and just leave any questions down there. Maybe put the recipe in that you want to make so I can look at it, because I've tested this enough to where I can tell you kind of what's gonna happen. So I've just started using these storage containers, and these things are great. They've got this little pop down thing right there to help seal it in. It's got a little gasket around it, so when you push that down, that gasket expands all the way around it and helps keep the stuff fresh. And I'll put a link to that down there too. But I'm just gonna pour it in there like that. Let me show you the texture of this. So look at that right there. I mean, that looks pretty floury, right? There you go. It looks like an unbleached regular flour, just like what you would use in any recipe. So there's the keto flour. And if you want something you can make with it right away, make sure you subscribe and then watch this video, and you are absolutely gonna love it.